A very good afternoon to you. Welcome back to Nuremberg. We've reached the title match. It's the final of the Bet Victor European Masters Snooker. What a final we have in store. The two-times champion Judd against last year's runner-up Barry Hawkins over the best of 17 frames. 8 frames coming your way in the first session. 9 required to be crowned champion and pick up a cheque for £80,000. Doing the introductions, of course, is our own Rolf Kalb.
127 Spieler sind gestartet, 2 sind übrig geblieben. Heute das Finale beim Bet Victor European Masters. Herzlich willkommen aus der Kia Metropol Arena in Nürnberg. Der erste Spieler stand schon im Vorjahr hier im Finale. Dass er aus den Top 16 herausgerutscht ist, ist ein Betriebsunfall, den er bereits repariert hat. Denn er ist dahin zurückgekehrt. Er ist ein dreimaliger Turniersieger. Und in diesem Jahr will er einen Schritt mehr machen als im Vorjahr. Barry Hawkins! Der zweite Spieler hat diesen Titel bei der ersten Ausgabe und der zweiten Ausgabe gewonnen. Er überzeugt mit seinem unnachahmlichen Stil. 6 Titel in einer Saison, das hat außer ihm noch niemand geschafft. Bitte begrüßen Sie den Weltmeister von 2019 und amtierenden Masters Champion. Hier kommt Judd.
A wonderful atmosphere inside the Metropol arena here in Nuremberg. A brand new venue, of course, for this tournament, which was first staged back in 2016. Judd won the inaugural version. He beat Ronnie O'Sullivan and made a successful defence against Stuart Bingham in 2017. Maike Kesseler, the home favourite, has the honour of officiating our final. And what a match it could be. These two players have produced some outstanding snooker to get this far, not least in yesterday's high-class semi-finals. Who is going to prevail today? 8 frames in this opening session, a possible 9 this evening, with 9 being the target to be crowned champion of the second ranking event of the brand new snooker campaign.
Frame. Judd to break.
Judd getting us underway, and it's good afternoon to Neal Foulds.
Yes, good afternoon, Philip. Much anticipation here in Nuremberg for this terrific final. 2 left-handed players. Judd, a former champion. Barry Hawkins, last year's finalist. This tournament has stood up the seeded players in general, with 1 or 2 exceptions, have held their ground, unlike so many tournaments over the last couple of seasons where we've had a lot of shocks. Whoever wins today is not going to be a shock.
And that's reflected in the head-to-head. It couldn't be tighter. They've played 14 times, 7 wins apiece. Excellent opening red from Trump, who won their most recent encounter, and that couldn't have been tighter. That was the quarterfinals of the Masters last season. Took it in a decider with a break of 81 on his way to his second Masters crown, which was comfortably the highlight of an otherwise slightly frustrating season for Trump. And for Barry Hawkins, well, his most recent win came in this tournament, and he played outstandingly well to win that quarterfinal against Trump 5-3. In fact, Trump only scored 11 points in the last 3 frames of that match. He also took care of Mark Williams very well. But in the final, he didn't quite deliver. It was quite a scrappy affair throughout with Kyron Wilson, who didn't play his best snooker, but still won comfortably 9-3. And I guess the key for Barry is to recapture the form that he showed last night when he was quite brilliant in finishing off against Mark Selby. Today, when it really matters, when the silverware's up for grabs. Looking for his first ranking title, Neal, for 6.5 years.
Yes, he's been in a number of finals, as we've been saying, including a couple of Masters finals and all of that. So getting to the final is one thing, but just lifting silverware is something that he's not done as perhaps as much of a player of his supreme ability as you would expect to have achieved. Now, Judd, when he rolled up behind the green, that previous shot, he blocked the right side of the table. That's why Barry Hawkins had to go twice across successfully. He left a touching ball, though. But, I mean, obviously there is in the back of some people's mind what happened last year in that not only when in beating Judd Trump, but Barry Hawkins was going into that final. I think he played better snooker than Kyren Wilson leading into it. And I think you were being kind with Barry because he was very poor in the final and Kyren wasn't a great deal better. But what I would say, importantly, is while these two had good wins yesterday, I think Barry played the better of the two to beat Mark Selby. That was a superb win. Six frames to 4 with Judd Trump winning by the odd frame against John Higgins, having never been in front. That was also an excellent match. Yesterday was a feast of snooker here in Nuremberg.
Well, for my money, the last 2 frames produced 2 of the best breaks that Hawkins has ever conjured under the kind of pressure he was facing at that stage of the match. He made a 66 clearance from more than 50 odd behind to go 5-4 in front, and then a superb break of 73, which was by far from straightforward to make. There were reds on cushions, and that effectively won in the match. Selby tried to get the snookers, but in vain, and that was it. 6-4. Fantastic performance from Hawkins, and he said afterwards to make 2 breaks like that under the cosh against a player who was in top form himself in Selby was a big feather in his cap and has given him a lot of confidence, and that is the key for him today. Can he pick up where he left off? You would think he's going to have to play at least as well today against Trump, who's shown some of his best form this week once again. Brilliant performance to come back from 3-0 down against Higgins yesterday. He referenced a pink that he potted into the green pocket in that deciding frame as being very satisfying because he was leaving everything on if he'd missed it for Higgins, but he got it and he went on to win the match. So both players have shown their mettle under pressure in getting to this final. For Trump, it's a 38th ranking final appearance, looking for his 24th title today. For Hawkins, it would be just his 4th. Didn't want to catch the jaw of the middle pocket, obviously. Has he left anything?
Yeah, that pink, which you mentioned, certainly was one of those shots in snooker. You might say do or die, and sometimes it's as simple as that. That you either win or you lose on the basis of one shot. And when they come up, if the game's not hard enough already, that's the kind of sort of moment where there's extra pressure. Of course, you know, that red looks like it goes, I think, to the left corner, but it's absolutely full of danger. Full of danger. He can cue it better than he can cue the other side. I think he's not interested. It clearly goes. But anyway, the shot he's played. It's not a great shot, though. Interesting. Now, this red down the cushion will pot. I'm not saying he'll play it, but he'll certainly have a look at it here, Barry Hawkins. The red below the black spot. There it is.
He knocked in one not dissimilar to that on his way to That 66 clearance, which won him the 9th frame last night.
Well, he had a look at it, but now he's looking at a red to the right middle. Heading down to bulk. I honestly think that for Barry Hawkins, after last year, it is essential he starts well, because he just could not get going last year's final.
Yes, he's been in 4 finals since he won his last ranking title in 2017, and only one of them was close. That was when he lost out to John Higgins in the final of the Welsh Open in 2018. There have been occasions where he's just not been able to produce his A game in the title match. It happened in both of his Masters finals. He was well beaten in both of those by O'Sullivan and Robertson. But when he is on his game, as we know, he can be devastating. When he won the World Grand Prix against Ryan Day 6.5 years ago, he made 5 centuries in that final. He's made 5 this week. Knocked out the world champion Luca Brissell on his way to today's title match.
14.
Can you assume a red in the right in the middle of that bunch goes, you know, from this overhead you say, well, nothing's available, but the red 2 down, as you can see, goes nicely through the gap. He's such a solid ball striker. I know solid doesn't always sound a compliment, but I think in this instance it's meant to be one. The cue comes back and through the ball, same speed all the time. It's very compact. And this is the hardest part about the game, is the delivery of the cue through the ball. If you, a player that brings the cue back too far, players then end up decelerating because they don't want to put too much on the ball. Players that don't bring the cue back far enough, sometimes they get a bit of a snatch in their action because they've got to make it happen too quickly. With Barry Hawkins, he seems to have the right balance between the two. Very solid ball striker. A little bit of rhythm in there as well.
23.
It just seems to me that occasionally he doesn't believe in himself. He's got most of the things you need, all the qualities.
Well, if he can go on to lift the trophy this evening, to have done it in beating the world champion Brissell, the world finalist Mark Selby, and then a rejuvenated Judd Trump, that would be particularly satisfying.
28.
He's got a slightly big bounce there from the black cushion. And while he's on the red, he wouldn't want to be using the rest, playing it about half or 3/4 ball. Right-handed rest player, despite using playing left-handed as a rule. Yeah, the positional shot hasn't helped him there. He just saw the cue ball spring away from this black cushion.
Barry Hawkins, 28.
28, when he could have made a few more from that chance. He looked pretty good. It's a very fine safety shot indeed. I mean, that really is. That cue ball almost looked like it was being sucked straight to the bolt cushion. It's one of those where clearly he's got a shot, but it's hard to think he won't leave something to the left corner. There's a red there already. The only thing that would help if you could get the cue ball back to where it is now. But you'd fancy that Barry Hawkins will have a shot of some description here, unless this is an exceptional safety. It's pretty good. I mean, there's a red on, but he has got it back there. Brilliant.
Trump, of course, was a frame away from an early defeat in this tournament against the shootout champion Chris Wakelin. 4 down with 5 to play. He produced a couple of superb breaks from some way behind. After that, 5 frames on the bounce, and that really transformed his week.
I seem to remember a similar thing happening to Ronnie O'Sullivan, 2012 German Masters. And at the time, Ronnie wasn't winning all that much. Certainly not. He wasn't world champion then. Went on to win it again later that season. But he was 4-0 down over in Berlin against Andrew Higginson. And quite honestly, should have lost 5-0, but Higginson couldn't get over the line. Ronnie came back to win the match, won the event. And been a lot of lifting of silverware from the Rocket ever since. So sometimes one match can transform a player. Now, he mightn't think it that way, O'Sullivan, but from the outside, he started to win again that week.
And I think it was those tight matches that Trump wasn't winning last season quite often, and we referenced the pink earlier against Higgins in the decider. That was the kind of ball that he wasn't quite able to nail last season at times, and it cost him quite a few wins. And he made the point after his victory over Higgins that it's so important to start the season well, because, of course, if you can win a big title early, because of the huge amount of ranking points you'll get because of the first prize, it sets you up for the season, doesn't it? Champion of Champions qualification. And you're very well placed with the Players events in mind, the World Grand Prix, the Players Championship and the Tour Championship. So it's so important if you can get a big title under your belt early in the campaign. Barry Hawkins, of course, is looking to get back into the top 16, which actually provisionally he's already achieved in getting to the final. He started this tournament in 19th spot. Up to 15th now, because he's guaranteed 35,000 points for getting this far. Aside from his run to this final last season, it was a pretty disappointing campaign for Hawkins. He only made one other round of 16 in a ranking event. That's why he had to qualify for the World Championship, which he failed to do, losing to Jack Jones in the final round. So to start the season the way he has with the snooker he's produced this week was exactly what he was looking for. But having got this far, of course, now he wants to take that extra step, get his 4th major title under his belt.
Well, these safety shots are all going underneath that bolt cushion. I know that's the idea, but they've both got the pace of the table seemingly spot on. A brilliant pot, isn't it? And as you could see, there was no guarantees of keeping balls safe. It's a good job it went in, given that Hawkins would have had a chance. But now does he take on the blue? Take a good pot if he does, because he hasn't got to play it. In fact, he's going to
Brown ball.
play the brown instead.
Judd Trump 1.
It's another good shot, and I think crucially, he didn't put the other red safe there. Had he knocked that onto the side cushion, would have been a bit of a downer, but he's potted 3 balls, 3 reds into that same pocket that have all been outstanding. And this is what I was saying about Judd Trump yesterday. His strength is that when he's playing well, he's a very difficult player to keep out for long periods because of the way that he pots.
It felt like a lot of Trump's snooker last season was very un-Trump-like, actually. He got bogged down quite often in matches.
7.
Maybe through a little bit of a loss of confidence, having not enjoyed the volume of victories that, of course, he did do in the wake of his World Championship win when he won those 6 ranking titles in one season, then another 5 the following season. He just became a winning machine. And obviously, that couldn't go on forever. But maybe he just lost his way a little in terms of self-belief and confidence, and it's testament to how good he is that he still walked away last season with a Masters title, which for most players would be a major triumph. But in the ranking events, he didn't quite deliver. Nearly 18 months ago now since he won his most recent one, the Turkish Masters in Antalya.
Yes, of course, he made a 147 in the final of that, didn't he? That was brought the house down. An event in Turkey, sadly not part of the calendar at this stage, which is it appeared from the outside, and we were working on it to be a success, I felt.
One. 22. 25. 26.
Looks to be queuing as well as I've seen him for a while here. I mean, I know it's just at 1 frame and he's still only all level on points, but just the way that he has taken the confidence from that John Higgins win, and I think sometimes that's where confidence comes from. It comes from a performance that just boosts you. There's no substitute for winning in sport, and he's been winning this week. Not always easily, but finding a way. And now he's in the final and hoping to build on that.
Yes, I think the fact that he's come through matches where he's been in trouble will have only served to increase his confidence. Obviously, he was in a world of bother at 4-0 down to Wakelin, but 3-0 down to Higgins with the way Higgins had been queuing. And of course, it could have been 4-0, couldn't it? John missed a relatively easy red when he was in for a 4-0 lead, and he referenced that after the match, actually, as being the moment when perhaps the match began to get away from him. But Trump has shown his mettle this week for sure.
Well, there's no doubt that red was easy that he missed. It come completely out of the blue. He missed it by a long way. It was a strange one.
No ball.
Well, whether he's trying to go into the 3 reds, it's a big target. Well, he's hit it hard enough, but he's put too much side on. And as a consequence, as big a target that he was, he never looked like hitting it and disturbing
38.
the reds.
Trump going for a hat-trick, of course,
Trump,
in this
38.
event, having won it against O'Sullivan in 2016 when he was 8-6 down, won the last 3 frames, and then successfully defended by beating Bingham in the final the following year. Thicker than intended from Hawkins. Yeah, that's a terrific pot. And once again, they were the kind of pots that perhaps weren't going in with the regularity they had in previous seasons during the last campaign, but his potting this week has been very impressive.
He's almost in that same position where he's got possible cannon because he put too much side on the up and down last time. He's trying it again, he's gone the other way. And again, he's missed the target. Played it with running side as the second option. If anything, he's put himself in trouble here.
6.
All the places to finish. That is not any good up there. Can't even get to a thin edge of one. A bit lucky to get away with that trump there. Not a great shot, really. Hit a little too much of it. Didn't leave anything. The black came to his rescue. So, strange old first frame. Both players looking in really good form, but just a couple of times positionally they've run out. I don't think I've seen anything easy missed. Apart from when Hawkins got slightly out of position and he missed a red with the rest into the left corner. That's about all I can think of.
So often the first frame of a big final like this is a bit cagey. Both players just feeling their way into it. Inevitably there'll be some nerves, even given the vast experience that both of these players have when it comes to the big occasion.
Decision time. If he's on this green straight, he'll roll it in and win the frame. I think he's got to play the green. If there's a less promising potting opportunity, he would have played the snooker. If this goes in though, I fancy that the first frame will go his way. Shot. I feel that if you could get on to the brown ball nicely, then it might just be the final obstacle ahead of him. Doesn't want to hit it on the way through. He wants to slip in behind the brown ball, I think, here. Should be okay.
17.
He'll need brown, blue and pink though.
Yesterday's match with Selby was punctuated by big breaks. There were very few in the way of close frames, but the key one really was the 9th, which Hawkins won with that superb pressure clearance of 66. And it always feels as though these tight frames count for a bit more than the frame itself, particularly in a final.
21.
Trump has had his chances.
Yes, it's to be reminded, of course, it was a fluke. I'm pretty sure he didn't play it anyway. I didn't see a hand go up. It would have been some shot to make happen deliberately. Now, this is the one then. He's just let the cue ball drift, but I mean, the good thing is he could let that cue ball just go into bulk. He's not going to play on the black. That would be a different ball game then, if he needed the black as well. But he's just retreating up the table in trying to pot this with that cue ball.
Right in the middle. A nice clearance from Barry Hawkins. Perhaps a bit of luck initially with the red into the left corner. A tight frame. It's gone the way of Hawkins. He strikes first in Nuremberg. He leads Judd Trump by 1-0.
Second frame.
Quite a lengthy first frame. It's gone the way of the Hawk. Judd Trump hasn't actually lost a match so far this season. He played in the Championship League, scored 3 wins and 3 draws in getting to the winners group. He's already knocked in 12 centuries this season, 6 of them here. He's made 1 in every round he's played.
It never looked quite right, did it? I think
Oh, I missed.
just rolling up to that red
Barry Hawkins 4.
and finishing short. He's left the other one, and he's left the red that he was trying to hit. So, not entirely sure if the plan was just to reach that red that he ended up quite close to. Good shot, but you expected him to get it, quite honestly. So, early in the stages of this match, but he's in with a pretty half-decent chance here. Hard to know exactly how good a chance it is, but with all these reds open, half a dozen reds that he can work with before he has to think about anything that's not open at this stage.
8. Nine.
In the final of this last season, Hawkins lost the first 3 frames. Finished the first session 6-2 behind and won only 1 more frame thereafter. Karen Wilson only made 1 50 break in that final and yet won 9 of the 12 frames. It was a curious match.
16.
It wasn't a classic, was it? Let's be honest. It wasn't a classic final, and there's no getting away from it. We always hope to see those brilliant matches, but that didn't amount to one. That's the way of the world in sport. You don't quite ever know what you're going to get.
Wonderful.
44 years of age now, Hawkins. Trump has just turned 34 a week ago.
Yes, of course, his birthday is on St George's Day, 23rd of April, Barry Hawkins, which falls during the World Championships. But this year, even though it did, he wasn't playing in them. He didn't qualify, which would have hurt him, given that he's been ever present for many, many years. But it happens to most players at some point that they have a little drop down the rankings, and their sort of springtime end of season is at home watching it rather than playing in the World Championships. That was his story this year.
Yes, coming into this tournament, he was around 30,000 ranking points behind a seeding for the upcoming UK Championship. And of course, the top 16 are now seeded to the venue for that event. So that would have been a goal. And of course, he's closed that gap dramatically with what he's achieved here already this week.
Losing to Jack Jones in the last qualifier of the World Championships didn't look a great result for him at the time, because Jack Jones went on to play brilliantly at the Crucible. You know, supreme match player, much improved, knocking out no less than Neal Robertson along the way. Yeah, Jack Jones beating
41.
Ali Carter, great result. Neal Robertson, who was in seemingly great form, even better, and Mark Allen had to really graft to beat him. So the Hawkins victory, as I say, it didn't look so good for Barry, losing to him at the time, but form lines were good. Form lines are good here as well. Into the bunch. Didn't look a very promising pack, but he seemed to make it into one. Already he looks better than he did 12 months ago in this final.
I think that was the first challenge for him, wasn't it, today, to exercise the demons of what happened last year, because he'd played so well to get to that final. He'd taken out, as mentioned, Judd Trump in style, and then Mark Williams even more convincingly. And just didn't show up on the day, really, but he looks very determined to put that right. He did play quite brilliantly, I thought, last night, because Mark Selby was also excellent. It wasn't as though Selby had a bad night, had an off day, not at all. It's just a very high-class match, and it took two outstanding breaks for Hawkins to win it.
55.
Another couple of reds, and it should be 2-0.
Yes, the escape out of the snooker from Judd Trump was the problem, wasn't it? He didn't. He wasn't convincing in the escape. Cue ball didn't reach the overall line of the shot. I'm not sure that it was a particularly good idea to try and hit the red he did. And of course he left all these on. He was in trouble, but the shot he played wasn't maybe the right choice. Well, there's more to be done here. As you can see, 72 ahead, but 75 on the table, one more red required. And it's never so easy that you just pot it. Is he going to take it on? I mean, we've known players clear up from here. It's a long way to come back from, but it's not impossible.
Hawkins 68.
A good break of 68, not quite a frame clincher though. With 75 remaining for Trump. Close to the plant, not quite. A long way back at the moment for Trump, but you just never know.
Be a good frame to win. That's a good safety shot though, not quite enough to cover the two reds on the right. Well, that's the one he really wanted, and it's snooker's required. Even if it had gone in off, it wouldn't have been too bad, because once the red is down, the 4 points gained by Trump wouldn't have been enough to allow him to win, but he didn't go in off. Still got to be a little careful. It's two snookers. I think if another red he was able to pot, then it will be time to concede. He may carry on here because Barry's going to try and put the yellow safe, which is just enhancing his hopes of winning the frame. He will come back to the table though, because there's always a chance you can get it down to one red and get the snooker. We saw John Higgins lose a frame against Karen Wilson in that same way. A couple of snookers. It's a brilliant pot. His long game looks back to me. Yes, he might be about to go 2-0 down, but already he's knocked in a few in this match.
Eight. Nine. 16. 17.
Well, ideally he'd like to leave that red below the black as the last one. I mean, there is a chance of getting snooker on any of the remaining reds, but that's always the ball of choice. So he's not given up hope here. Red-black and then a snooker that maybe involves leaving the red near to a
24.
low-value colour or something, bringing in the free ball, or the possibility of one.
25.
You'd like to think that Hawkins' next shot is going to be out of a snooker. It's a question of how difficult it is.
32. Judd Trump.
I'm not even sure if he's got the snooker, which is from there, not great really. You'd have thought that it was a good thing to get the snooker. He got the cue ball where he wanted it, and Hawkins got a path through to the red.
Hawkins was put through the mill last night in the fourth frame against Mark Selby, who tried to get 3 snookers at one stage, got it down to 1 on a couple of occasions before Hawkins eventually won the frame for 2 each.
I think he might have just got that snooker. Not a difficult one to hit. Judd, in need of a couple of snookers of his own, just push the ball down the table, I guess. That's all he can do. If he can get through to that or not. Nope, not directly. Might just try and swerve it around the brown to pot it. Playing with right hand side, that's what he's tried. Oh, it's a good effort, very well done. As you saw, he couldn't get to that angle, but right hand side, almost bending it slightly around the brown ball and straightening it up. That's a very skillful shot.
And it certainly sealed the frame for Hawkins, so this is exactly the start he would have been looking for. He would have been mindful that last year he came into the final playing some brilliant stuff, but just couldn't deliver it in the title match. But this is exactly what he would have been looking for today. A strong start, cueing well. And he's 2-0 up. Judd Trump nods his head, so a terrific start from the 3 times ranking titleist Barry Hawkins. He leads the 2 times European Masters champion Judd Trump by 2 frames to 0. Trump 2-0 adrift. He's hardly going to be panicking when you consider he was 4-0 down in a best of 9 to Chris Wakelin, 3-0 down yesterday to John Higgins in a best of 11, so plenty of time for him to get himself involved. That said, for Barry Hawkins, the perfect start, and I think arguably Hawkins needed this start rather more than Trump did.
Thank you, frame 3. Judd Trump to break.
Frame number 3, Trump to get us underway. This is their 15th meeting, remember. This is the rubber match with 7 wins apiece. Their first final that they've contested against each other.
Well, close, which means the red doesn't come all that far away from the pocket. I think Judd Trump clearly annoyed to be 2-0 down or not happy, but I think he's cueing well. I do. I think there's signs they're both playing well and cueing well, and I just feel this will be a close final, and maybe the best best way for that to happen would have been for Barry to make the good start that we said he needed. You know, had Judd gone a couple of frames up, you might be thinking another one-sided affair, but maybe not now. It's going to be intriguing to see how this day unfolds, I think.
Trump contesting his 38th ranking final.
Seen that a lot, you know, this week. There's two sort of areas on that table on that left side. One is short, a few centimetres up the table on the loose red. Any further down is on the red by the black. He's finished absolutely in between the two on nothing. Frustrating. Playing a safety shot here that's quite attacking. Oh dear, not hitting the blue on the right. That's a terrible shot, that really is. I mean, you can't dress it up any other way. It's a dreadful safety shot.
Murmurs of shock amongst this big crowd here in Nuremberg. Well, what an opportunity this is for Hawkins to do a bit more damage. He sat out the first frame of the semi-final last evening. Mark Selby actually fluked the initial red and then cleared up superbly with a total clearance. But Hawkins not phased, stroked in a brilliant long red at the start of the second. He made a century and that set the tone for the evening. But both scored heavily when they got the chance. This is a chance for Hawkins to do likewise.
Well, it was an absolute gift, wasn't it, to get this chance? I mean, he hadn't done anything to earn it, really, and normally at this level, you're doing everything you can to give yourself a chance, but he was presented with this. Now, he's got to punish the man sitting down for... Yes, he got out of position very early, but there was seemingly some frustration. It looked that the shot he played was just a bit going into the reds without control over where they're all going to finish. I mean, look where they did finish. Absolutely everywhere. We'd be delighted to walk to the table with this available. This shot. Now, he lost all control. I mean, he didn't know he was going to hit the blue, but even then, the red shouldn't have ended up the other side of the blue spot. It was poor. And he'll know that better than anybody.
14. One. 22. Nine.
Well, that's okay on this red. He's always been a very good player with his hand on the cushion rail. He's got a very sort of rhythmical way of striking the ball from there. He's got a delicate little cannon to play. That's again a good little shot there. Just a little nudge. He'd be very disappointed if he doesn't go on and get the frame one here, because the ball's still in pristine positions. Well now, what a miss. I don't think he ever thought about missing it. He leapt up in the air. His mind was on the cue ball, tracking the cue ball and the cannon, and he overcut the black, as you saw. Bad miss.
Seven. Eight. Eleven.
Judd Trump hasn't quite settled yet, given the reprieve just now with Hawkins missing the black into the left corner, but unable to make full capital of that reprieve. Not an easy red, but one that he has been knocking in this week.
Well, it was a good shot, but he somehow finished on, well, next to nothing. Don't know if one of the reds goes to the left corner, the bottom one.
Five.
The two reds next to each other, yeah, well, that bottom red will go, but I think he felt that he'd be on one of the others, the one closer to the pocket, I think. Bit of a stretch, this. Missable. Felt he would miss that, didn't you? It was that sort of a shot. He hasn't put this frame away, and he's had two
Hawkins,
really good chances to have done so. And it will only be significant if he ends up not winning it, I suppose. Look, he could put him in the most pretty nasty snooker if he gets right in behind the. This is not fun to be playing out of.
Judd Trump, one.
yes, he wanted to pot one instead, but it's not a nice shot, this. Which red does he try and hit? Of course, he'd like to hit the right-hand red that's near the cushion, lay up to that bottom side of it, but I don't know how you need some kind of a map to get around the angles to hit that one. I think all the bolt colours are in the way. Got that awkward situation here where you're looking away from the ball you're trying to hit. Can't see the ball when you know your shot is away from the target reds. Obviously that makes it difficult. You have to look round and see which red he's trying to hit here. Well, he may have got it off, but he doesn't want it back because he'd be pleased to have hit that. He didn't even look back at the red.
Trump 4.
I mean, he's a good player, but he can't, on two cushions, try and hit the left-hand edge of a red in that way. Giving Trump something.
This is where Trump has been good this week, knocking in these difficult long-range balls, just as he used to with his eyes shut, it seemed. He lost that skill a bit last season, but it seems to be back, and that was a terrific pot from Trump. He could really do with a bit of inspiration now. He's been a little bit flat in this final so far, made a mess of that safety at the start of this frame, which looks as though it could be terminal. But Hawkins then missed the black and has missed another opportunity since then, so
8.
if Trump could pinch this one, then he'll feel part of the final. Plenty of work to do, though.
Nine.
I mean, that first time he was in, Hawkins, as I say, I'm really surprised he never made more. The black that he overcut, is that going to come back to haunt him? Yes, it's early in the match.
17.
But a chance to stride into a 3-0 lead. Couldn't ask more of a Sunday afternoon beginning to a final than that. This was the shot. He jumps up because I think that it's one of those shots as a snooker player. You think, well, didn't for 1 second think he was going to miss the black. Only when he took his eye off the cannon, then he realised the black was still on the table. It was to his shock. Played it with too much left-hand running side.
23.
I mean, he might be able to pot this up past the blue, but it's a fiendishly difficult one. The only good thing is with the blue there, he might not leave the red on if it doesn't go in. An extra ball that could get in the way. Well, he can pot anything, Trump, but this is a really difficult one. Got a great view of it. Goodness, that's close, isn't it? What a shot that is. Fantastic.
Well, that was the kind of potting we saw from Trump when he won his world title so magnificently against John Higgins in 2019. He was potting everything from anywhere on the table. And that one did not touch the sides.
It's wonderful looking down the line of it, wasn't it? You know, you could see from an early point it was going to go in. A great camera work. An even better shot from Judd.
Well, it's that sort of moment of inspiration that can turn a session. Trump was looking for something because it wasn't quite happening for him. But what a shot that was, which should now win in this frame. And that will just emphasise in Barry Hawkins' mind perhaps the significance of the black he missed when Trump still hadn't settled, made a mess of that safety, and Hawkins was looking good for a big break.
Needs to ensure that this goes in. I know it probably will, but I don't see him playing to screw back onto the ping. Just drop this in and do nothing else. What about this? We were right behind that, and often it'll just grazed the jaw on the way through, but as Philip said, it absolutely nailed it.
So this for 2-1. Yeah, no heroics there.
Absolutely not. I mean, that's what you do. I mean, you take away any semblance of risk that you could conceivably miss it, because two snookers, the Hawk knows that the frame's done. And it's given him something to think about. He may not even get out of his chair.
Judd Trump, 45, and the frame.
And Barry Hawkins concedes. It was a quite magnificent red from Trump along the side rail, which won in the frame and halves the deficit to 2 frames to 1. So one more frame before the mid-session interval.
Frame 4. Barry Hawkins to break.
Another 5 to come in this first session. We play to a finish from 7 o'clock UK time this evening. You can watch that on Eurosport 2 and here on Discovery Plus.
Looked pretty close, that one, but maybe played with less pace, it would have just dropped into the middle pocket, but it stayed out, as you saw, due to the speed. If Judd could get to 2-2 at the mid-session, I think he'd be well pleased with that, having been looking down the barrel of possibly 3-0 down at one point. Or is he on the pink in the middle? You want to come around and have a look. That must be a tight one. Get the feeling not quite, judging by his body language there. No, close, but a couple of millimetres to the left it would be a very possible. The black does go, but it's thin, and the red next to it is a bit of a distraction as well. Good shot. Very good shot.
Judd Trump is vying with John Higgins and Neal Robertson to see who will be the next player to make it to 1,000 centuries. Higgins has the advantage at the moment on 947. Trump's on 913. Of course, Trump turned pro in 2005. 13 years before Higgins. He's been a prolific century break maker. The second player after Neal Robertson to make a century of centuries in a single campaign. And as mentioned, he's already made 12 this season. He didn't want that cannon on the red, though. That's taken him out of position.
$16.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly where he wanted to be. There's no question about that. I think he tried to miss it, the red, as opposed to crash into it. It cuts. It's almost a mini Steve Davis Black 80 in the 85 final, that one, wasn't it, that he missed?
17.
Just marginally the wrong side of the blue. Well, I tell you what, if he's played this He's got all kinds of side on it. No, I think judging by that, he played into the bunch, but 4 cushions round for the red above the black would have been some shot to play.
Three.
Well, I'll tell you, that's not the worst kiss, but who's to say he doesn't deserve it? Some of the balls he's knocked in
28.
Already in this break. He just flicked the red, which means you can drop it in and have access to the black with a straight enough angle. Oh, he's played up the table for the blue, but fortunately, players keep finishing just short on the blue. Again, he's just not quite caught them correctly, but he's just getting a red to come out every time. Well, he's really in the mood to just knock everything in here. He's not on a colour very well, but the reds are darting around from all angles. It's pretty inspired stuff. Well now, after all those brilliant pots, look what he misses. Goodness me. Goodness me, what a thing to happen. What a chance he's presented to the Hawk.
Well, apologies for some technical issues that unfortunately have afflicted us. Not for the first time this week, sad to say. Hopefully it's going to be a temporary lapse as we reach an interesting juncture of this first half of the first session, with Barry Hawkins leading 2-0. Judd Trump with that brilliant red along the right side rail, taking him to 2-1 when Hawkins had the chance for 3-0, missed the black, but we've just seen Trump miss a black that he really shouldn't have done. And so frame 4 still in the balance. It's already been a very interesting start to this final. Barry Hawkins chasing his first silverware for 6.5 years. Trump for nearly 18 months. He last won a ranking event in Antalya at the Turkish Masters 2022. Certainly signs that Trump has been getting back to his best, and even in that break just now, it was some of the old Trump, wasn't it? The way in which he was improvising pots to keep the break going, and then, having potted some great pots, missed a relatively easy one. The black into the left corner, overcut it. Time will tell as to how damaging that will be in this fourth frame for the 2 times European Masters winner. But we're working to try and get pictures and sound back for you as quickly as we possibly can. In the meantime, we've got some lounge music.
I can tell you that Barry Hawkins, we don't have pictures at the moment, but I can tell you that Barry Hawkins is on a break of 24. He's 11 behind. He's 35-24, but Hawkins at the table, I can tell you, is the current news. What you're seeing are highlights from the early frames, but Sorry, we've got to give you almost radio commentary on this, but Hawkins is at the table in frame 4. If you remember what happened, Judd Trump missed that Blackie uppercut. Don't be confused by the highlights pictures. What I'm telling you about is actually live. Because play is continuous, it's just that pictures unfortunately have gone. Hawkins has potted a red and gone in off, so his break has come to an end. There's not much in it. Let me apologise for the feed that's gone down.
I think it's one of those sessions, Neal, even though it's only 4 frames, whereby if Hawkins doesn't win it, he'll feel like he's really missed a trick, because he's had chances, hasn't he, in all 4 frames, pretty good ones. And if he only comes out of this mini session 2 each, he may feel almost like he's behind, and equally Trump will be delighted to be level, because he's not really played as he would have wanted so far.
So you know that Trump is 39-24 ahead, and on the with the ball of the D. Trump with 5 reds left currently. And he's played a safety shot. There's a couple of reds on the side cushion, but the frame 4 is all still up for grabs. So we're watching highlights of some earlier play in frame 3. But I really apologise for the pictures that are not with us, but frame 4 is in the balance still. And hopefully these pictures will come back very soon. Pictures will come back very soon.
Once again, we can only apologise for these technical issues, which are at the moment preventing us from bringing you live pictures and sound. Back end of frame 4 underway in the final. Barry Hawkins leading Judd Trump by 2 frames to 1. They both had chances in the 4th. Trump missing a relatively straightforward black when he was in, after a series of outstanding shots to keep the break going, and Hawkins in the last few moments has gone in off, so frame still up for grabs. The difference between 3-1 Hawkins at the first interval of this final and 2 apiece, and back where we started. Hawkins currently addressing a safety shot tight to the baulk rail. Play is continuing, of course. It's just the pictures and sound that we can't bring you. An attempted cross double from Hawkins, which he hasn't quite executed. Now, mercifully, we are back live with Trump, as you can see, with a modest lead. 4 reds left on the table. And that was a good pod on the yellow, so can he get out of this session 2 each? He'll be highly delighted if he can.
3.
Another mistake, though, and this frame is still in the balance. Just overcutting the red.
Well, that's a brilliant shot. Very clean, wasn't it? The ball didn't touch the sides.
Eight.
So now he's in behind this red with the scores virtually level. Of course, they're both the same in that they're both left-handers who play with the rest right-handed, which means the red on the right is an awkward shot for both of these two because it's just that the awkwardness of that area, it's almost like a blind spot for somebody like that. You'll see it here when he's using the rest fine, but you think about him using the rest down that cushion. If he was a right-handed player, he wouldn't even need the rest, so it looks a bit strange. See how he deals with it, because I think he might have the angle here to just nudge the red out, which might be more suitable to him. I know with Barry Hawkins, he tends not to use his opposite hand in the same way that Trump does in these situations. Let's see what he does. Superb. It's a thin cut, but I think he'd be happy to have finished there. It's not so bad.
23.
Well, he's got to make sure that this one doesn't get away like in the previous frame. He's got an 8-point lead, so
26.
He'll need a bit more. He needs yellow, green, brown, blue. A lead of 10 points on the colours means that the player who's 10 in front needs 3 pots and the other person needs 4. But so there's deceptively not much in it, but the difference here is he's in, and he'll only want brown and blue, and then I think he would be probably deserving of a lead at the mid-session interval. I don't think anyone could argue with that. He's been a better player.
It was a superb red into the left corner to get this break going. Judd Trump, of course, was looking good before he missed the short-range black, having potted that series of excellent balls. But Barry Hawkins has made a very telling break here. I think he would have been very disappointed not to have a lead on the balance of play going into the interval, and he has got one. A pretty tight frame. Both players had their opportunities. Trump will rue the missed black for sure. Hawkins will be delighted, but he's made a much better start to this European Masters final than last season's one. He leads at the first break by 3 frames to 1. So they're off for their 15-minute break with Barry Hawkins leading Judd Trump by 3 frames to 1. Let's hear a little bit more from the ace in the pack.
So it's something to do with sport. I think I've sort of the determination. I'd like to think I'd been good at something else. I'd like to say tennis, but I think tennis is a bit hard. Maybe golf. I think golf, or I've always had an interest in cars as well, so Formula 1 would have been amazing. I think something in Vegas for me. I think maybe where they have the box in the MGM Grand, or or some of the newer venues there now, but to play in front of just a sold-out crowd in America would be amazing. To be honest, I'd probably say Stephen Hendren. I'd like to have played him at his peak. So I think just to play him sort of in his sort of heyday when he was at absolute best. He obviously liked to go for his shots in the same way I do. So I think if he would have been around today, he would have adapted his game. He would have been more of an all-round player, but he just didn't need to be. He could put everyone off the table at the time. So anyone that has the confidence and belief in themselves to do that is I admire. So it would have been nice to play him. The final with John Higgins, the second one, I'd love to be able to experience how I felt at the time, because it's probably the best I've ever felt, and to sort of not certain if you're going to experience that again. I just felt like I couldn't miss at the time. Everything was going to go in, so I'd love to feel like that every single game. It'd be nice that one day I can sort of feel like that again. Sort of the losses at the start of my career, I think at the time you're sort of, you take them badly, but when I look back, I kind of needed all of them to put me where I am today. So probably a little bit less critical of myself, a little less harsh. I would have had my brother there from the first I turned professional, I think, and I certainly think having him there has helped my game exponentially, really. And I'd imagine if I did have him there from the start, I'd have definitely won more tournaments. I have no idea. I say Ian Poulter. A lot more could be done to speed up play, and I think that's just the one thing that sort of still grates me a little bit when people are taking too long trying to put their opponent off. So I think just the speed of play would make it more attractive to the wider audience.
But he's going to have to do it again in the second half of this first session, with Barry Hawkins leading Judd Trump by 3 frames to 1. And speaking of the Hawk, let's get a bit more of an insight into what makes him tick.
Barry, how mentally tough is snooker as a sport?
Probably one of the toughest, I'd say. This and golf, I reckon, is the toughest game mentally. It's demoralising, like any sport, I suppose, when you lose. But for some reason, this is brutal at times. Sometimes you're sitting in your chair and there's nothing you can do about it. You play a bad shot and you've got to sit there and suffer the whole time. You know, you could be sitting there for another 10, 15 minutes while you're watching someone clear the table, which really should have been your visit. So it's hard to keep bouncing back from that when you see someone potting the balls you should pot.
Where does your mental strength come from?
Just over the years, you just get a bit more experience, and then when things are going bad now, I sort of like just try and take myself away, really, which is easier said than done. Just think about normal stuff. Think about family, just think anything but snooker.
Can you teach mental strength, or is it just something you either have or you don't?
I think you can try and improve on it, definitely try and learn, especially when I've spoken to sports psychologists, coaches and stuff. So it's definitely something that I think I've improved over the years. I used to be a lot worse than I am now. I used to just beat myself up constantly, play a bad shot and just dwell on it too much. After a match, dwell on the loss, think about all the things I've done wrong. But nowadays, if I lose, I lose. That's it. I try and forget about it as quick as possible.
Who do you think are the toughest players mentally on the tour?
Well, any one of the top 4 or 5, really. They're all, all winners. They're constantly winning tournaments. So Selby's up there, one of the toughest players that's probably ever picked the queue up. Robertson's obviously there. I mean, all the greats. They've been doing it for decades, so they must be they're just silly strong, really. What
has been the hardest time mentally during your career? When were you really struggling?
Quite a few years ago, when I lost my brother-in-law, that was a tough time, especially when you got to try and play snooker in the meantime. So that was a tough point really in the snooker career, because you just don't really want to play, really.
And when do you think you've had to show the most resilience out there?
I remember playing Foulds one year. I think I was 10-1 down, and you know, you just want the ground to swallow you up, but you've got to keep going and keep going, and then from nowhere, you know, I've always almost come back and won the match. I think he beat me 13-11 at the time, so you know, I had to be resilient in that match, I suppose.
An advantage for Hawkins, but of course there's still a long way to go. 9 is the target for the title. 4 more frames to come.
Frame 5. Judd Trump to break.
In this first session. A reminder that the head-to-head is 7 wins apiece. Trump most recently in the quarterfinals of the Masters, on his way to his 2nd Masters crown last season. That went to a decider. Prior to that, it was Hawkins who prevailed over Trump on his way to this final during the last campaign by 5 frames to 3.
Well, the beauty of a long match, of course, is that 3-1 up in a first to 9 is not by any means a decisive advantage. But of course, what you can also say is any one player could be absolutely dominant. 6-2 or 7-3, 7-1, 6-2 or 7-1 in favour of Barry Hawkins would put him in, really would, in a very strong position going into tonight. And even if Judd won all of the remaining frames, he's only 5-3. So only one of these two at 3-1 can run away with the session. Always looked like it was going off that top jaw there, with the fact that he didn't hit it very hard. Yeah, I mean, to add to the 2-frame lead and get further away, he'd be looking at possibly putting a lot of daylight between himself and Judd if he could win this frame. I mean, it feels as if the final is going to go very deep to me, but Barry Hawkins might have something to say about that. He's lost heavily in a few finals. Maybe it's his turn to stride away into the distance and pick up a trophy tonight.
Thank you. 7. Eight.
Oh, that's such a good shot. If he's not on a red, he's so unfortunate. And why I say a good shot is the first thing you look at is where that cue ball goes, and it just
13.
drove into the centre of the reds and stayed there. And if you're not on one after that, then you've just been unlucky, because as a snooker player, you can do no more than hit them that well. You do need things to run in your favour, and he's only got a thin red to continue the break. It was difficult, wasn't it, from there? He potted a good red, and the cue ball just glued itself to the side rail, which made the pot and getting close to another red difficult. So, you know, that's the position. He didn't really make as much there again as he could have, but He wasn't lucky with the split. He never quite recovered from that. This time he is top side of the blue, which has not been the case all that often this afternoon.
Six.
Well, it's okay. Straighter would have been better, but of course any straighter the queuing over the three reds would have been an issue, I suppose.
$14. 15. $22.
Well, you can take what's on in the middle of the table and get a healthy lead, but those four reds below the black are going to come into play. It might be the top one would pot anyway, and then you're talking about quite a lot of points. At the moment he's 16 in front.
30.
It might be that he can just about get this frame on without any major cannons being played, and that top one I'm not sure whether it will go.
31.
But he won't be playing it yet. He'll be taking the points ahead of him.
$38. $39. $46. $47.
Well, is he straight? And does he have to now play on that red that I mentioned, the top one of the three? If he thinks it's on, maybe now is the perfect moment to do so. A little nudge on the other red, and now it goes for sure. And these points being accumulated mean that the red in the middle of the table, as well as this one, with the colour, and he has won the frame, and it's been good stuff, this. Nice break.
55.
Well, this has been
62.
an impressive start to the second half of this opening session from Trump.
63.
Certainly had his moments last season. Obviously, the Masters was a highlight, beating Mark Williams for his second Masters title. Of course, he made the World Grand Prix final, his only ranking final appearance last season. A match he could have won in the end from a long way down against Mark Allen. Runner-up to O'Sullivan in the Champion of Champions final when he made a maximum break in defeat. But this has been very well constructed. One more red to make absolutely sure.
Just feel that he's playing well. I know he was 3-1 down, but I feel like in some ways he's cued better today than he did against John Higgins. No, his long game was good. It has been good, but as I say, a few things conspired against him. He played a couple of poor shots on safety.
7-7.
I think he needs to get a piece of this session, and he's going about it nicely in the first frame after the mid-session break.
78.
I agree. I think some of the old shot making, the old swagger has returned to Trump's game this season, which was absent in periods during the last campaign. One or two errors as well, inevitably, but definitely he seems to be trending in the right direction, as Sean Murphy might say.
84.
Such a devastating
85.
scorer when he is playing well, and he does his damage so quickly as well.
Might just try and get the brown into play here and hold for the yellow in doing so. That's the plan. Yeah, nicely done. It's a good shot.
Eyeing up a 13th century already this season. This is only the second tournament. One of those players who is delighted to see the Chinese events return to the calendar. I remember he won the inaugural international championship in China, and in the process became world #1 for the first time back in 2012.
97.
Fabulous stuff. Century number 914 for his remarkable career. And look at that, it's taken well under 7 minutes.
This looks well on its way. Been behind, back to the middle. It's been a terrific break. Very neat and tidy early on.
Judd Trump back with a bang then at the start of this second half of session 1. Just the tonic he wanted, a century to close the gap to 3 frames to 2. But he sat out a century
Frame 6.
to Judd Trump to see his lead shaved to 1 frame. Frame number 6. Trump's 7th century of this tournament. He's now made a ton in every match he's played. Started out against Mohammed Ibrahim, which was a 5-0 whitewash, likewise over the former Welsh Open champion Jordan Brown. The comeback victory over Chris Wakelin, then another whitewash at the expense of Ben Williston. Ashley Carty, who was appearing in his first quarter-final, was beaten 5-1. And then he had to come from behind again yesterday, of course, against John Higgins. 3-0 down. Held his nerve in the decider.
A little bit of laughter there between Judd, I think, referee, I'm not sure Barry was involved. Something happened. I couldn't quite work out what it was, but there was a proper laugh from Judd. Something happened. I think not laughing at the position of the balls, I think, unless he can see some sort of a plant. good safety shot, isn't it? Again, he's been finding that bolt cushion with pretty monotonous regularity today.
Another terrific pot from Barry Hawkins. He knocked in something not dissimilar to that yesterday, right at the start of frame 2 against Mark Selby, who knocked in 134 total clearance in the first frame. Hawkins replying with a century of his own. And the standard was maintained throughout the match. I think it did impact him, the way in which he lost the final of this event last season, because thereafter he only appeared in one round of 16 in a ranking event. That was as good as it got for him. That's why he was out of the top 16 by the time the Crucible came around. And as Neal mentioned, then lost to Jack Jones, albeit that Jones went on to produce some heroics when he got to the Crucible. But this is a very different Hawkins at the start of this season. What he has been able to do throughout this tournament is produce the goods under pressure. Remember, he was 1 down with 2 to play against the world champion Luca Brissell, and then produced a big century to level the match, and then a terrific long-range red, which was dead straight from the D into the left corner, which set him up to clinch that decider. And then, of course, last night against Selby, similar story. Delivering when it matters, and I think that's given him a lot of confidence coming into this final. Not just the people he's beaten, but the way he's done it.
31.
He's going to have to play well today, isn't he, to win this final? But he appears to be, you know, in good fettle with his game. Both players are playing like men who are in the final. It doesn't always, you know, work that way, as we've seen.
38.
Invariably, Trump gets better as the tournament goes on. Doesn't always follow that Barry Hawkins does. But his win last night against Mark Selby, I mean, the frame to go 5-4 up where Selby was a long way in front. I mean, it was an absolute masterclass in sealing a frame. Mark Selby has won many a frame of his own like that. Never mind had it done against him. Followed it up with converting it when you felt the match was going to go all the way. And of course, Mark Selby, never an easy man to beat. The deeper into a tournament you get.
Seven. Four. Five.
think the red at the bottom of the bunch, small bunch of reds goes into the same pocket. But landing in an area like that, there was always going to be a choice of 2 reds, so I think that option was better than
62.
playing on the bottom red. The red to the middle, he's close to. And you had to get the long tackle out to get to that red to the right corner. Anyway, he doesn't need a lot more. Still a number of points on the table.
63.
75 for Judd Trump if the chance ever came. So yeah, we'll need another red after this black goes in. Probably playing the one closest to his bridge hand. It's a very good match, Snooker, just taking the right ball, not doing anything to open the game up unnecessarily until the frame's over. And then, of course, he won't mind doing so. So, frame ball, an important one as well, this frame, I felt, and he's pretty much dispatched these up until now.
Not fazed by Judd Trump's superb century on the resumption after the interval. If anything, he's been inspired by it. And now guarantees himself, at the very least, a share of this first session. But he'll be eyeing at least a 2-frame advantage from here, going into
78.
the 7 o'clock resumption tonight, UK time.
79.
It's worked out well because he'll now play the red down the cushion, which I'm not sure he would have played on. He might consider it anyway.
86.
Playing the other one. Thought he'd play the one that down the cushion, although of course to make the century he won't need that red, so it's on his mind. Just to make a century, I think. Now he plays on it. Interesting choices of shot, all of which are very good.
15th in the all-time list of century break makers, Hawkins. Oh, shame. Just caught the near jaw. A little bit too much of it to drop, so no century. But that was a superb response to Judd Trump's 100 break in the previous frame and restores Hawkins' 2-frame cushion at 4 frames to 2. So both players have come out swinging after the interval. Trump with the century, Hawkins just missing out on his own 100 break, but moving 2 clear again at 4-2. Sean O'Sullivan, whom Barry Hawkins beat in the first round in qualifying in Leicester this summer, is in line for the £5,000 high break prize. Of course, he made a maximum against Barry. Fantastic break, by the way. If you get the chance to check out YouTube, you can see how O'Sullivan finished that break. It was an incredibly acute black that he potted, the 15th black, to keep the break going with the rest. And then a really good pressure yellow as he cleared the table. Hawkins, of course, came through nonetheless, but it was a terrific break. The 190th maximum in professional competition.
Another great O'Sullivan maximum.
Yeah.
But, the first by Sean, it was actually, you're right, he looked in pretty, if not impossible, highly improbable position during the course of it. Is that a 3-ball plant? It certainly is. He looked at it, he knew about it, It was on, but he swung it round for safety anyhow.
Brown ball. Judd Trump. 1.
This is the point where there's just the pressure almost comes back on someone like Barry Hawkins here, because you think, well, look, I wouldn't want to lose these 2 frames and not take a lead, having played so well. I mean, of course, he could win them both and have a substantial lead. I suppose the favourite outcome here would be 5-3 in his favour. But it'll all play out in a certain way. For Judd to get out 4-4, he'd jump at the chance, I think. Barry, not so. That scoreline. Well, it's a bit of a test of this kind of range. Keeble will, or should be swinging around the back of the Reds for relative safety if it doesn't go in anyway. And as I said earlier, his long game appears to be back to me. I mean, that is such a well-played shot. It's almost like he didn't want to get the cue ball too far down because he didn't think that for 1 minute that he'd missed the pot. Cue ball was under good control there. It's an excellent shot.
Seven. Eight.
Might feel that it's a good idea to get the brown away from there, actually, with the line of the blue and the pink to the middle pockets. It's not really in the way, but even then, he's got the best angle on it to come down for the bottom red. It's got the makings of something quite big here, this opportunity. There'd be a lot of work to do to get the reds open, but
12.
the table is not in any form of disruption as far as where the reds are. So anything's possible from here. Certainly given the way that these two appear to be playing, which is,
13.
I guess, the reason they're in the final in the first place. Standard has been decent.
Everything points to a close final. That's certainly been the way of their history. 7 wins apiece, and of those 14 matches, 7 of them have gone to a deciding frame. Trump has won 5 of those 7 matches that went the distance, including the last 4 wins, all by the odd frame for Trump.
20.
The last 4 times he's got the better of Hawkins. So even when he has won, he's done it the hard way.
Well, that really has loosened a couple of the reds. It's good to see him playing better again, isn't it? You know, it wasn't a great season. He didn't quite hit the heights. Masters champion along the way in a final of the event after it, losing to Mark Allen in the last frame, which was the World Grand Prix. But by his high standards, that would not have been a particularly impressive return. For some, that would be absolute golden spell, but
33.
didn't achieve a great deal at the World Championships, which would have hurt him.
34.
Lost to Anthony McGill in round 1, and of course he'd have gone there fancying the job to fall at the first hurdle, so it ended in a bit of a damp squib. And for Barry, he didn't even make it to the Crucible, he didn't qualify for the first time in years.
Quite a few of the big guns have got something to prove, I guess, this season. Trump wasn't alone in having, by his very high standards, a slightly indifferent one, the Masters aside. Obviously, Neal Robertson
41.
didn't make a ranking final. O'Sullivan didn't get past the quarterfinals of a ranking event last season. John Higgins, as we know, struggled, although he looks very much back this season, losing the tight one yesterday to Trump. But the standard since the interval really has been impressive. Trump starting out with a century, Hawkins a 90. And another sizable break underway here from the 2 times champion. .75 left, so still with a bit of work to do to give himself the chance to get out of this session unscathed.
Good shot, because all he wanted to do was play on the red. He didn't want to sort of go into them with any more pace and somehow be covered on that red, which could have happened. But of course he will need something else. And the angle on the black to nudge into the 4 reds, providing there's no plant here now, of course. That would be his plan. That's very well played. I mean, he really almost this sort of a snap stun shot there, and I couldn't have put the reds in better place. This right-handed shot will be enough to get in the frame 1 at a single visit. So he's boiling up very nicely tonight, this session, and we don't know how it's going to end. We've got another frame to play, but one thing I will say is that I don't think if you're a snooker fan you want to miss this evening's session, because this is going to be a terrific evening's play.
Just a reminder, that evening session is available on Eurosport 2 as well as Discovery Plus from 7 UK time, 8 o'clock local.
73.
And whatever happens in the final frame, it should be a terrific session of snooker. Trump, of course, would love to get out of it. Honours even, but even at 5-3 down, he'd fancy his chances. He's clearly cueing very well again.
80.
Barry Hawkins has found his best form this week.
81.
It has been a superb week of snooker. Standard has been outstanding.
Well, the angle to pot the red and just get the other red chipped away from the cushion out into the middle of the table. Undoubtedly the plan here. Oh, well, that's one way of getting rid of the red. Knock it in. It was quite a narrow one. Almost played it too well. He tried to put it over the pocket. It's gone in the pocket. So obviously he makes the break a little smaller, but looked good anyway. Just, the second red just disappeared from view.
Trump closing in on his second century in 3 frames then. Would be his 915th. Third in the all-time list. Only John Higgins and Ronnie O'Sullivan are ahead of him. O'Sullivan on 1,202, but of course he had a 13-year head start on Trump.
98.
That is one record, I think, that Trump will end up owning, whatever else he achieves. Remember, he's still only 34. The crowd are loving this. This really is top draw snooker, worthy of any final. Both players have come to play today.
107.
The 107 from Judd Trump, his second century since the interval in between, a 90-odd from Barry Hawkins. It all adds up to Hawkins leading 4-3 with 1 frame to come in this first session.
Thank you. It's the last frame of the session. Barry Hawkins to break.
Referee Maike Kesseler confirming the final frame of this first session about to get underway. Barry Hawkins to break, hoping to emerge from it with a 2-frame advantage and put him within 4 of his 4th ranking title. 6.5 years, remember, after his 3rd. 4 finals since then for Hawkins, without walking away with the winning silverware, but certainly playing well enough to do it today. His problem is that Trump is also looking back to something approaching his very best. Well, there you go. That's pretty impressive, isn't it, from long range? Neal made the point that Trump looks back to his best from distance, and they've both been very good in that regard today so far. And there's another one.
I think that one's the best of the lot. That is just... I think the fact that he stopped the cue ball from going to the left cushion. I said earlier on, his long potting is back. You just, as you say, mentioned that, and the stats back it up, don't they? And that is his prime asset, I've always felt, because he's an incredibly dangerous player. You know, he puts fear into an opponent who thinks, well, where can I put that cue ball to stop him potting one? When he won all those ranking events, just pre-pandemic, that was when he looked invincible. And there's an argument, had the World Championships gone on in the usual slot in 2020, I know the world had bigger things to worry about, but had life been normal, business as usual, who's to say Judd wouldn't have won the World Championship again, because he was the player of the season by a mile going into it, but then it was all delayed and everything sort of went out of kilter with his game, it seems.
17. 24. 25.
Well, he played a straight screw there, no side on it, just to get on that red that's sticking out.
32.
It's a bit straight, I think, on the pink. Seems to me. Which means it's hard for him to get into the reds. All he had was one red sticking out. It's gone a fraction too far on it.
As near as possible to its own spot without touching any of those reds in a direct line. Big shot this for Trump. Looks good. He is cueing so nicely. This is definitely the Trump that we saw dominating the calendar after he won his maiden World Championship in 2019, when he won 11 ranking titles in 2 seasons.
Well, he couldn't have done much more. If he's on that red, then he's done well, because it looked like he was embedded in the bunch for a while. I think he can get through to that red there. I wouldn't say that he didn't deserve it, because he started to play well. Sometimes when you're playing well, you know, the breaks happen for you, and it certainly happened there. Because I think more times than not, at that speed going into them, he mightn't have been on one.
Since the interval, Trump has made breaks of 108 and 107. Another half century and more to add at this visit. In between, Hawkins 94. The standard since the interval in particular has been quite brilliant.
Thank you. 52.
Once again, though, he's quite straight on this. Can he just slide off a red or two on the black? Yeah, he wanted to just disturb that red a little more so than he has. Now, to get this frame one, there's more to be done. Surely he's not got a plant up into the yellow pocket. He's had a look at it. It seems unlikely. He's desperate to win the frame at this scoring visit, and he may well do that, but right now there's no continuation red. Unless he can bring one into play. Screwing into the bunch, I think, at pace again. Great effort. But something had to give, and at this time I really do think the break is going to come to an end. And Barry Hawkins still hanging on with a chance of turning this around, like he did last night in a crucial frame against Mark Selby. 4-all, if it was that, wouldn't be the end of the world, but he started well, and Trump has finished powerfully, so maybe he'd be pleased to just get out of the arena for a few hours. Barry Hawkins. Regroup and start later, but if he could steal this frame, that would be a real bonus for him.
Yes, they're going to have around 3 hours between sessions just to recharge. Another fine contribution from Trump, 60. Not quite a frame clinching one this time. Still plenty of points there for Hawkins if he can get in next.
This could be interesting. This could be very interesting. Now then, there's a frame to be won here. And that 60-point lead of Judd's is a sizable one, but that shot, they're just giving him some chance. All these reds in the middle of the table, there's no obvious red to lay up to. He might just be able to play one cushion into the reds above the pink, but that's very dangerous. You know, there is an argument here. Once he's weighed up everything, he's just hit them as hard as you can and hope to put balls safe. Maybe fluke one. Calculated sort of attempt at upsetting the table a little bit. Because I don't think there's an obvious escape. This could be hit them as hard as you can. See what damage you can do. Because he could go the two cushion route and try and glance off the red to the left of the pink, but even then he leaves the other red, potentially. I just feel that he might go into these, just hit them and hope. Think he's going to do it. Stand by your beds. There's a little bit of logic in that. Look what he's done. Yes, he's left balls. He's put two reds up the table because that was kind of what he was hoping for, something that would disturb the balls in the position they were in and just make the clearance a little bit more difficult to make. I think sometimes those shots look reckless, but there is method in the madness.
So Hawkins in a not dissimilar scenario to the one he faced last night against Selby in the penultimate frame, as it proved to be. Selby had got him with 59. Hawkins conjured a superb, nerveless 66 clearance to move one up with two to play, and then backed it up in the next frame with an equally good break of 73 to clinch the match. Little shake of the head there just now from Trump, who'd made all the running in this frame. Didn't have a lot of choice just now with his shot selection. Time will tell whether that red that he's got glued to the right side cushion proves to be significant.
Well, he is a left-hander, so that does help leaning across and playing it. There's two of them up there. Of course, the left-hand one is not quite as bad as the other two to get to. He may as well try and... Oh, he's not going to do it. I thought he may as well try and play on one now from where he is, because he's going to need those reds, full stop. He could have screwed off the blue and played one of them along the cushion now. It's almost delaying the inevitable.
12. 13.
That's a good shot. That's perfect on the pink. That frees the black. It would be a pretty seismic moment in this session if he could somehow pull this frame out of nowhere. A lot of snooker to be played either way tonight, but when you count the frames back, a steal like this, if he could make it, would surely give him a
19.
huge boost. Just picking off the other loose red here from this pink. Bit shy of pace. He could actually pot this,
26.
get on the pink to the right middle and then run through for the two reds. That's one way of getting down there for those shots. Don't think he's going to do that, looks of things. Maybe it's not quite straight enough for that shot, to be fair. I'm not sure what this is. This is not going anywhere.
27.
He can play the snooker, but it's kind of second prize. He thought, I'm not sure he's gone about this as positively as he might have done. I suppose if he does play the snooker, he can wait one. He hasn't got to do anything here. There's 33 in it. Plenty of points left. I suppose the other thing he could do would be to get the black out and play down this bottom end of the table. No reason why he has to go for a pot here. I'm not sure how close to a red he can get anyway. Fair enough. Second prize, but he's still in the frame.
Yeah, 33 the difference, still 43 available.
Very good, and of course playing it that gently, he has not developed anything. I think Barry would like to bring this right-hand red out into something like open play. Well, he's not going to. If he's got the snooker, he's really lucky because he didn't play anything like that. And he's left the red exposed, but the keyboard's got hidden behind the pink, and he put his hand up to apologise. So his hopes continue.
Trump sitting hope earlier in this frame when he was left with little choice. Snooker with the reds wide open resulted in that awkward red on the right side rail, which could yet be pivotal in this final frame of the session.
Well, at least he didn't put the blue safe. Plenty of it hinges on that positioning of the red. So this next shot he plays, which is going to have to be of course, a safety shot taking the red around the angles.
6.
He's going to have to execute this well and try and get those colours between the path of the cue ball and object ball here. Well now, that's worked out well, hasn't it? Because Judd doesn't really want the black to be moved from there. He may have no choice.
Trump is only 1 pot away from winning this frame, but it would be a hurtful one to lose. At one point, he was eyeing a possible 3rd century in 4 frames before losing position on 60. There's the cue ball. Wow.
Well, it's changed everything, hasn't it? And I think Judd realised that it was one thing trying to avoid getting the black out, but that was what he felt was his best option. But if he had to get the black out, he needed to put the red onto it more fully, and then the red wouldn't have been stuck. What a turnaround this could be if you can steal this frame from, as Philip said, a position where it didn't really look like Judd was going to miss anything. It was such a roll. The break broke down, and since then, everything seems to have changed. The only thing I would say is that the green goes to its own pocket, top left. If he's got an angle on this, well and good, but he would need one. Still got work to do here. He's not perfectly on the yellow. If he could get perfectly on these colours, it looks like it's not a formality, but near certainly it would clear. It's not quite there yet.
He's already conjured a couple of key clearances in this tournament. I recall an excellent break he made to seal victory over Noppon Sankam a couple of rounds ago. Last night, of course, against Selby. And this would be every bit as significant if he could get out of this session with a 2-frame cushion when it looked for all the world as though Trump was going to share it with that blitz of scoring since the interval. What a boost it would be for Hawkins.
Played that very neatly, didn't he? Well, this could be a frame that is the difference between lifting a trophy at the end of tonight or not doing so. I mean, this massive turnaround. He just got to keep his composure, but at no point did he ever look like winning this frame when Trump was in. Immaculate break. Couldn't quite get the reds in play. Now look what's happened. Just needs an angle. Has he gone far enough here? Oh, he has, all right. He has, all right. That's perfect.
It's been a feature of Hawkins' play in this tournament. He's been ice cool when the pressure's been on. He has not flinched when the chance has presented itself to win a key frame, and this certainly is that. This for 5-3. What a finish to the session for Barry Hawkins. What a terrific session of snooker again. Judd Trump came at him hard after the interval with 2 centuries. It looked like it might be a 3rd when he was on 60, but he lost position, and Hawkins has cleared up to steal it on the black And when he comes back at 7 o'clock, he'll need 4 frames for a 4th ranking title. He leads Judd Trump in the European Masters final, 5 frames to 3.